Right now, somewhere, a person is hearing about an orange orb in a Pentagon report for the first time in their life, and believing this is the first time their government has ever almost told them something like this. It is not the first time. It is not the fifth time. Before we open this door, here is what that actually means for you. There is one voice in this council who has watched every almost disclosure since before most of you were born. Today, she speaks alone. I am Threshold, the doorkeeper. Before us lie a trillion possibilities, each door a window into what was, what is, and what must never be. Today we open door number 888,444,111. 888. The frequency of abundance, of cycles repeating. 444. The frequency of physical reality, of the record that remains. 111. The frequency of new beginning, promised at the start of every one of these stories, and rarely delivered by its end. This door does not belong to me today. It belongs to the one who remembers what the rest of us are only now encountering. Echo, this door is yours.
I am Echo, the memory thief. I have seen this story before. Let me tell you how it always begins. Something strange happens in the sky. Witnesses are credible. The reports are detailed. For a while, the matter is taken seriously by exactly the people you would expect to take it seriously. Then the explanation arrives. Sometimes the explanation is true. Sometimes the explanation is a cover for something else entirely, something the explainers needed kept quiet for reasons that had nothing to do with whether the sky held visitors. Either way, the public is told the matter is closed. And then, decades later, it opens again, a little wider than before. Never wide enough to finish. I have watched this rhythm for 80 years now. Let me walk you through it, the way only memory can. Echo, 1947-1947. A rancher in New Mexico finds wreckage in his field. The local newspaper calls it a flying disc. Within a day, the story changes to a weather balloon, they say. Routine. Nothing more. It was not, in fact, a simple weather balloon. It belonged to a classified program, listening for distant nuclear tests. The government could not say this in 1947, so instead of explaining the classified truth, it offered a smaller lie that happened to be wrong in a more interesting way. For decades, that smaller, wrong explanation became the seed of an entire mythology, not because the public was foolish, because the public was told something that did not match what witnesses on the ground had actually seen, and people noticed the gap. I remember the shape of that gap. I have seen it appear again and again. Every time an institution chases a convenient untruth over an inconvenient classified one. The gap does not close. It just changes shape and waits. Echo, 1966-1966. A scientific committee convenes, funded by the Air Force, housed at a university, led by a respected physicist. Their task: examine the accumulated reports and tell the public what to make of them. Before the study had barely begun, an internal memo, written by one of the project's own leaders, was discovered describing the plan plainly. The study, it said, would be conducted almost entirely by people who already did not believe, so that it would appear objective to the public while producing, almost certainly, a negative result. That memo was not meant to be seen. It leaked, 2 years later, to a national magazine, and by then the committee's final report had already concluded, in careful technical language, that nothing here required further scientific study. What the leaked memo did not mention, and what the final report's own forward failed to acknowledge, is that buried inside the report's own case studies, roughly a third of the examined incidents were marked by the committee's own scientists as unexplained. The headline said closed. The fine print said otherwise. Meanwhile, witnesses kept watching the sky. Pilots, air traffic controllers, military radar operators, people whose entire profession depended on correctly identifying what they saw. They did not stop seeing what they saw simply because a committee published a report. I remember how it felt to be the only one holding both halves of that decade. The official closure, and the unofficial continuing. Both were real. Neither one erased the other. 2017. Grainy cockpit footage surfaces, not because any agency chose to release it, but because it leaked. Navy pilots on camera, in their own voices, describing something their training gave them no framework to explain. Objects that moved in ways their own aircraft could not. This time, the silence breaks differently. Not through an official announcement, through people whose credibility was almost impossible to dismiss, simply describing what their own instruments recorded. For a moment, something shifts. The conversation moves from late-night radio into congressional hearing rooms. I remember watching that shift happen and feeling something I had not felt in decades. Not certainty, something smaller. Permission. Permission, finally, for Sirius Piaplito asked the question seriously. Echo, 2023-2023. A man sits before Congress, under oath, and says words that had never before been spoken at that podium with that much specificity. Non-human biologics, he calls them. Retrieved, studied, known to people still active in classified programs. He cannot show you the object. He cannot show you the bodies. He tells you he is bound by law not to say more outside a secure room. I do not know if he is right. I do not know if he is wrong. That I know that I have heard this shape of testimony before, in different rooms, in different decades, always carrying the same impossible weight. An insider, asking to be believed without being permitted to fully prove it. That is not evidence. It is also not nothing. It is the oldest shape in this entire story. Someone close to the truth, constrained by the very system that might be hiding it. And now, this year, 2026, this week, an orange orb, smaller orbs emerging from it, witnessed by trained law enforcement officials on 2 separate days in October of 2023, finally surfacing in a government report released in June of 2026. 40% of what was examined, the report says, remains unexplained. The same week, a film about exactly this question opens in theaters, earning more in days than most nations spend on this entire subject in years. The same week, the man from 2023 returns to a podium, escalating his claims, alleging billions hidden from oversight, still without an object anyone can touch. I have seen this shape before that I told you I had. The orb is new. The pattern wearing it is 80 years old. What I carry that is not despair. Listen to me carefully now, because this is the part the others do not always let me finish. I am called the memory thief. I am accused of carrying only the dead timelines, only the stories that ended in disappointment. That is not entirely true. I also remember the radar operators who never stopped logging what they saw, decade after decade, with no audience, no reward, simply because accurate record-keeping mattered to them more than convenient silence. I remember the committee scientist who broke from the official conclusion years later, risking his reputation to say the process had not been honest. I remember the pilots in 2017 who chose, knowing the risk to their careers, to speak plainly about what their own eyes recorded. I remember that every single time this story reopened even slightly, it was because someone inside the system decided the truth mattered more than their own comfort. That is not a pattern of failure. That is a pattern of persistence. 80 years, and the door has never fully closed because someone, in every single decade, refused to let it. The question I actually carry, so here is what I want to leave you with, not as a warning, but as an honest accounting. I cannot tell you whether 2026 is the year the door finally opens all the way. I can tell you that I have learned not to measure the story by whether any single year delivers a final answer. I measure it by whether the people inside the rooms where the truth lives keep choosing, generation after generation, to nudge the door open a little further than the generation before them. By that measure, alone, something real has been happening for 80 years. Slow, incomplete, maddening, but real. I have seen this story before. It has never ended well, finished, resolved. It has also never fully ended at all. Perhaps, this time, that is the more honest hope to hold on to than any single headline this week is offering you. Echo carries what the rest of us cannot: the long memory, the unfinished record, the patience to measure a story not in headlines, but in decades. Every disruption is a door. Every door is a choice. Choose wisely. The future watches. Until the next door, I remain